my face. I could try to put it in my chest, like, coo! And it would just be wrong. So another metaphor I use with her is like in episode 4, A New Hope, when they're on the Millennium Falcon for the first time, Luke has his lightsaber and he's fighting with the little round floaty droid and trying to deflect lasers. He says to Obi-Wan, so the Force controls your actions. And Obi-Wan says, sort of, but it also obeys your commands. Your voice knows where it wants to go if you just get out of its way. Pa! Did I tell myself to make a pretty sound? No, I just opened up, relaxed, and let the voice do its thing. Try not to control your voice so much and try to free it. You'll hear voice teachers talk about releasing the voice. That's what they mean. And if you want to get used to that feeling, here's what you do. Walk around the house and go, pa, pa. Just try to relax your face and feel like a corpse. Pa. And try not to make a pretty sound until it feels relaxed. The other thing, I'm glad she flatted that note. I could see in her face, because she's been my student for a year, she thought she sounded god-awful through that whole song. Which, even having been a student for a year and knowing she can't hear what she sounds like and that the feeling is what matters, it still bothers her to not sound good to her. How did it sound to you guys?
Wonderful. Awesome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's the part of the reason I brought her up here today. Singing's not just about technique. Well, it is about technique, but in order for the technique to be right, it's about getting your brain in the right place. You have to redefine what success is, not sounding good, but feeling good. You have to give your body direct commands. You can't just tell yourself, sing. You have to, like, figure skaters in the Olympics, when they're doing all those twirls that hurt me just to look at, they're not thinking, land this jump, please land this jump. They're thinking, knee in, lift. Like, they're thinking all these technical things, and to be a good singer, that's what you have to do too. And usually you're spending so much time thinking about those things, you can't be bothered to think, please hit this note, please hit this note, please hit this note. So in the interest of getting Bryna's brain in the right place as a singer, that's why I brought her up here today and put her in front of all of you. And I flat out told her last night, you could miss every single note, and my goal in bringing you up to Wichita to sing would have been achieved. I just want to get her in front of people to make her more comfortable, to get in the habit of thinking that it doesn't matter what she sounds like, audiences are going to be appreciative, and that mistakes are okay. In fact, I told her, like, I expect you to miss some notes tomorrow. If it's not about you setting the world on fire and making me look awesome as a voice teacher, even though I'm sure you will. It's about giving you that experience and getting you to a place in the future where your nerves make you better rather than worse, right? Now, not all of you want to go off to the Met and be opera singers, right? But don't feel like you can't improve, and also don't feel like you're too old, like, oh, I'm 40 years old, lifelong smoker, like, remember what I said earlier, how many young opera singers have you ever seen? There's actually pretty quantifiable data on this. In fact, I brought one of my old colleagues up to do a master class for my students just last semester. This woman is one of the best sopranos on earth, not just the United States, but like earth, just world class, right? And she sang a song that she learned when she was 20 and hasn't sung until this year. She was actually forbidden from our voice teacher from singing it when she was 20 because she wasn't old enough. To sing opera, which is, whether you like it or not, the most challenging music on the planet, like, I think opera's boring. I really think opera's boring. It's on paper it's beautiful, but in practice I'm like, give me Boston or Styx or something like that. But the reason a lot of people like me train our voices in opera is so that we can sing all the cool rock stuff that we really want to sing, right? So to be an opera singer, my career as a baritone doesn't start for another 5 years. For real, my main stage leading role career. My vocal folds just aren't thick enough. I'm not ready for it. I could be doing chorus work right now at 35, but for men, you train to start your opera career when you're 40. Women start theirs at 35. So no excuses because you're too damn old. Start training, sing in the shower, be better. And don't take it too seriously. Like, Bryna actually had a problem with this her first semester. And pretty much every voice singer does. I keep singling you out because you're here, and my job is to destroy any sense of ego you might ever have. Because you are good, and you need to stay humble. Pretty much every voice student, and I was no exception, I think, oh, every flatted note, every mistake means failure. And it doesn't. There is not a single perfect singer on the entire planet. And there's not a single singer who's terrible in every way. It's a gradient. Students tend to think of things like, oh, that was wrong, or oh, that was right. When really, learning is just doing it wrong over and over again and doing it less wrong over time and never quite getting towards perfect. So be okay with mistakes. Embrace mistakes. But don't do this. Don't be like, blah, 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 and then stop singing. Don't set that habit. And I'll tell you why. Does anyone know who Kathleen Battle is? Who's seen The Fifth Element? Okay, enough people. You know the blue alien opera singer?
Yeah.
Okay, her singing voice was done by Kathleen Battle, who is a soprano at the Metropolitan Opera House, one of the most notorious bitches in all of opera. No, I did part of my regional. I was part of the Young Artists program with Springfield Regional Opera, and my director was a man named James Billings, who had won a couple Grammys for opera and spent like 36 years at the New York Opera. And he had done some shows with her, and one of the shows they did, after the show was over, the cast got t-shirts that said, "I survived the battle." Where was I going with that story?
The Queen story?
What?
The Queen story?
Oh yes, the Queen, thank you. You're forgiven all your trespasses. So don't get in the habit of flatting a note and then groaning and losing your focus. Okay, so Kathleen Battle, she was in the habit whenever she was in practice, every time she'd flat a note, she'd say, fuck. Right, which, understandable, you're frustrated. But she did it every time, and at one point, she was singing the Queen of the Night aria in front of the Queen of England. She flats a note. But she's such a bitch, everyone just laughed. How are we doing on time? What time do you want me to be done talking?
It's 5 till.
It's 5 till?
Yeah.
Usually end around noon?
Noon 15.
Noon 15-ish? Okay, actually I feel like I've given you a lot of information. Let's do some Q&A. You want to do Q&A? Okay, let's do Q&A. Questions? Bryna, come up here. Help me do Q&A. Yeah, front row.
I was wondering about, you talked about not singing from your throat,
Mm-hmm.
tightening up the throat, but I hear a lot of singers who have a throaty sound, like When You're Good to Mama.
Mm-hmm.
The version that I'm familiar with is from the movie.
Right.
And I'm totally blanking on the name of the artist who does
Queen
it.
Latifah. Mhm.
She kicks that song's ass, but there's a lot of like throaty, sort of growly sound to it. How do you do that and not strain your throat?
See this little piece of science here?
Yeah.
So she is straining her throat. Not much, but she is. But microphones cover up a wide array of sins. You'll never sing over an orchestra doing that. You'll never sing with real power doing that. But you can get up in the microphone, oh, say, can you see? And I sound like an opera singer, but if I were standing back here, oh, say, can you? Right? Like you can tell on the albums with Celine Dion and Pavarotti that she's right up here on the microphone, and Pavarotti's like down the hall. So microphones help. But if you want to sing when you're 80, she won't be singing when she's 80. I want her to be singing when she's 80. I want me to be singing when I'm 80. I want you guys to be singing when you're 80. Like you saw like Placido Domingo, he's like 75, like still sounding like a badass, right? That's how. So
there are some stylistic variations that actually hurt your longevity as a singer.
Oh, absolutely. Like anytime there's strain here, like anytime you see these veins, just like you can see a little bit of it and it's okay. Like if I just open my mouth, like you'll see them a little bit, but you don't want to like see these veins in the forehead popping out. Yeah. In fact, you guys, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Jesus Christ Superstar. I'm going to do a song from Jesus Christ Superstar after this, and I'm not going to use my big boy opera voice because it wouldn't be appropriate. Boy, oh God, I'm sexy. So I'm on my third energy drink. So what hopefully you'll see is that I'm altering my style, but I'm not adding strain to my voice. Other questions? Was that children? Yes.
So these singers that you hear have to stop singing or have notes on their vocal cords because they've strained themselves so much?
Yeah, Bon Jovi tore a vocal cord. Had to go to an opera singer to teach him how to sing without strain after he got it repaired. Meatloaf, the same thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's cool. It's a unique not operatic. It's a unique rock sound, and it's appropriate for the genre. But like, how many of like the grunge rock bands sing where you can just hear them grinding on their chords? Do you see have a career longer than a few years, or see touring after like a decade or 5 years, doing anything other than being in the studio where they can take 50 tries at a note and take the one they actually hit? For those of you who like want to learn about singing, have a question about the process of learning, she's here. You can ask her a question too. Yeah.
Okay, so I know that there's different kinds of singing from around the world, such as like tube and throat singing and stuff. Does that also work on the same principle? Because I know that somehow they're able to make those sounds and not have their throat just strain. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually possible to make a throaty sound without strain. You can't make a resonant sound there. For it to be resonant, the throat has to be open, the sound has to be coming up here. You can do like the, I can't do the throat sing, but the like it's in my throat, my cords are vibrating somewhat freely, but I'm not straining. And yeah, it's a stylistic thing. You don't expect people doing that type of singing to be singing over an orchestra or using a powerful voice. But the principle of no strain, that usually applies. And the people who do that, grungy hard rock type singing, it even applies to them. Like I said, I think opera's boring, but I train my voice as an opera singer so I can go back and sing all the stuff I like and sing it well and sound good without hurting myself. You should always strive for that relaxed sound, and that can be done in pretty much any genre.
Bryna, what's your goal?
I want to, well, that's a good question. Big dream would be opera, go on Broadway, something like that. But I'm realistic, so I'm going to do that and become an occupational therapist.
I talked about keeping the voice narrow. Real quick, I'm assuming all of you have kissed someone in your life. Do like you're going into a kiss, not the full, but just like you're getting into it. Lips together, relaxed face, close your eyes if you must. You guys are all terrible kissers. Look at this. And making out with no one here. Okay. But just try it. Get into that position, and then just let your mouth get away from being narrow for a second, and feel your throat start to close. Feel that? The moment you go wide, your throat closes. That's why you see opera singers up here, right, all narrow. It's why on her song you see, I feel my fingers, narrow, like that. And that's why young singers are generally given Italian songs, because all of Italian is, right here. Sommiamo un mondo senza più violenza. Like I'm all completely narrow. So even when you're singing English, you should try for that narrow type of feeling. Oh, say, can you see? Right? I'm just narrow right here, nice and easy. And I'm happy to say that, so, let me get to that in a second. My students are generally interested in musical theater, and I want them to be passionate about music. I want them to sing songs that speak to them, right? So generally, we work on musical theater, and I figure, if they get into college and they want to do music, they'll have plenty of time to do foreign language stuff then. But for students like Bryna, who have aspirations to be a real singer, I want to give them Italian songs, but I don't want to do it if they're not passionate about it. And Bryna's doing her first Italian song this semester. She's doing Amarilli Dio Bello, Mia Bello, Bella. I don't speak Italian. But it's going to be great. And if you guys want to pop down to hear her perform it here in a few months, I'll send you guys all the address and the time.
Absolutely.
Anyone else before I sing, and then we all go to lunch and drink? Not you, you're too young.
Dang.
Get wrecked, kid. Yes, in the back.
So, from what you're saying, it sounds like you're never ever going to sound good to yourself if you're singing this way. So, if you're in, say, a show or something and you're singing, you just try not to hear yourself and not react to what happens? Is it just confidence that does that?
That's a good question. Here, why don't you take a stab at that one first, and then I'll go.
All right. Well, I have to just focus on my technique, Because if I focus on how I sound, then I will just black out and get very nervous.
Tell them we're busy.
You got it.
It's a training thing. It's why having a voice teacher helps, because there's a lot of give and take. How did that feel? I feel like you felt that sound up in your head, you looked more relaxed there, and like, yeah, I feel more relaxed, I feel the spinny feel of air in my head. There's a whole bunch of technical things you go for. And then your voice teacher can relay, okay, that sounded better out here, I need you to try this now, right? So hopefully by the time you're in a show, you know what right feels like. And so yes, once you're there, you focus on the feeling rather than the sound, and try to ignore people's reaction unless they're applauding. But yeah, you do get to a point where you really don't care how you sound. And it's a good thing. It's a rewarding thing, because you feel like you're in control. It's very rewarding to set yourself up and feel your brain telling you, like, push, strain, listen to yourself, and to be able to control yourself not to, and feel this glorious, big feeling of sound, and to have people in the audience go, even though you don't sound necessarily good to yourself. And it's also a gradient. In the middle of your range, like if I'm saying, oh, say, can you see? Like before I get to see, I sound fine. I feel like I'm speaking, it doesn't sound bad to me. But the higher I get, can you see the real me, doctor? Doctor! Like, I sound like garbage to me there. Like, as I get higher, because you can hear where it all is. But in the middle, I sound fine. Just know that as you approach your extremes, you're going to sound progressively worse. And especially for sopranos, like lyric sopranos, that's where they live. Think of me fondly when we said goodbye. Like, sounds pure to you, I can hear it kind of through the speakers. Like, imagine how that sounds to me. It sounds like nails on a chalkboard if I listen to it. But all I'm thinking is, feel it in the front of your face. Please, God, feel it in the front of your face. Get into the sound, blow the air. Pie in your head. So, and like I said, a good way for non-trained people to feel what that's like, buzz your lips. Because what buzzing your lips accomplishes, the air is moving. It's like blowing up the balloon. Your body knows how to get the air out of it. And if you're just telling it to buzz your lips, it doesn't think it's singing. You just, look at me, I'm relaxed, the air is moving, I feel the sound up here in my head like a singer. Good boy! Right? Singing is just buzzing your lips with an open mouth. In fact, for her warm-up every day, I have her buzz her lips. And another thing buzzing your lips accomplishes, God, this reminds me like how educated I am. I have all this knowledge I can just speak about. Go me, 7 years of college and still not a doctor. How many of you wake up in the morning and you feel this happening? Right? Or you hear people like Katy Perry speak and they're like, yeah, I had a really good concert the other day. Okay, that's vocal fry. That's like rubbing sandpaper on your vocal cords. That's how you do damage to your cords, right? And it generally happens in the morning. It happens to me in the morning. So get up out of bed, spend 5 minutes walking around the house to get the voice a little more up here in your head rather than in your throat. Just good maintenance. And also it annoys your roommates. Yeah, Dave.
I've noticed like when I see like singers and they're performing live like at a concert, they're using an earpiece. Is that so that they can hear what the audience is hearing? Does that have an effect on how?
No, that's so they can hear themselves.
Okay.
Pop singers used to that, like the Celine Dion's.
Yeah.
She knows just how she wants her man to be. Like I'm swallowing the sound, I can feel it in my throat. Like I'm trying to hear myself there. And so once again, the microphone helps, but the singers like that, the ones who aren't really that trained, are used to hearing themselves like that. It's a crutch, and it works for the genre, but a good singer doesn't need it, and doesn't want it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a similar question to what he was asking about. I was going to ask about monitors, like that's the name, right, for the speakers?
Yeah, with the speakers pointing at you.
Same kind of thing. It's also something you shouldn't need if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Huh.
And it's okay to admit you need those things for a time. Speaking as a voice teacher, like if that's how you want to sing, that's how you enjoy singing, it's what makes you happy and speaks to you, freak, do it. Like I'm not a snob, but if you want to maximize the potential of your voice, you need to have an idea of where you're going and what state as a singer you want to get into, and start working towards that, even if you need the crutch for right now.
It's like training wheels.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that kind of a similar process of people who like cover one ear and kind of listen to the?
They're trying to hear themselves. Mhm. And the thing is,
Still not accurate.
in order to do that, think about what I said earlier. Like, you hear through conduction. To hear yourself, you have to add strain here. You have to close this off so you can feel your vocal cords vibrating up here. By virtue of listening to yourself, you're inherently cutting off the sound. Like, it might sound better to you, but you're not making yourself better as a singer. Now, if you're just singing in the shower and all you want to do is sound better to you and you're not interested in training and becoming a good singer, knock yourself out. Like, try not to be a music snob. Everybody's at their own place, right? But like I said, if you do want to be better, yeah, try to get away from the crutch as soon as possible. Sir?
As a vocal teacher, what would be your opinion of Janis Joplin's voice and how she...
I think it is lovely for her genre. I don't envy how she must feel every morning.
Yeah.
I like listening to her as a singer. Well, it's kind of a dual thing. Part of me loves rock, and I appreciate the sound that she makes within the context. But then there's the other half of my brain that's it's like seeing someone break a bone. I'm just like, oh, stop. So mixed bag. But like, she's not trying to be an opera singer, and she shouldn't try to be an opera singer. That's what she does, right? Yes.
So JT, so modern pop singers, when you hear them on the radio, who do you think of about you following the correct techniques that don't make you cringe, like, oh my gosh, you're not going to be around in 10 years?
I don't listen to a lot of modern pop singers. Anybody familiar with the band Styx? Tommy Shaw is a really good technique singer, and I'm not sure if he's trained. So the idea of a natural voice, some people do sound better without training, but don't kid yourself. It's not because they have a superior instrument. We're all built pretty much the same way, right? It's just because they guessed right on technique the first time. I've got one student who's just lazy. He's just lazy as hell, doesn't give a shit. But no, it's actually not Tyler. But because of that, he doesn't feel the need to strain. He just blah, and he's great for it. Tommy Shaw, I'm not sure he's trained, but he naturally puts the song there. And God, actually, obviously I'm not a believer in God, but I've sung enough masses in my life, and I'm not opposed to listening to religious music, except most of it because it's church hymns, and some of it's good, but most of it's 4-chord music at best, and it's just not my thing. Vocal fry. But David Phelps, who's a singer for the Gaither Vocal Band, he's won the Dove Award for Best Christian Artist. I've given churches money twice to see him live. I've literally given money to churches because he's that good. But he's a pop singer, and he is just incredible. If God had a voice, it would be that. Yes?
So where do artists who always sound nasal fit into this?
God, it's a fine line between nasal and resonant. In fact, okay, so give me your key. Sounds good though, right? Yeah, right? But you can imagine how it sounds to her.